All right, guys, so this is demo number 3 on Breakout. So last time we just finished making the wall. We have the ball, we have the paddle, and we have a brick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start making a level just with something to do. So remember, if you just hold down Control, you can click and drag multiples. So, whoops, didn't mean to do that. So you can click and drag multiples. So if I just keep holding Control, I can drag out a bunch of these, and I can start to build out a level. And I can click on any of them while holding Control, and I can just make a lot of bricks. Okay, now if you want these bricks to really line up, we would want to have like a grid. Okay, so if we're on the game layout, so when you need to highlight a layout or like an event sheet, you have to highlight it here from the project window on the right. So I'll highlight there. So I'm highlighting the game window there. And then now that I'm highlighting it, our properties window right here will now display properties for that layout. Okay, and so right here, we can do view grid and snap to grid. So what I can do is I can show a grid, I can do snap to grid, and I could set a grid size. So if I want to make a grid for these blocks, what I would do is I can click on a block and I can see that my blocks right here are 50 by 10. So I can do my grid size. So if I highlight my game layout over here on the right, I can go back on the left here where it says grid size, and I could change it to 50 by 10. So if I go 50 by 10, okay, press enter. So now these are all lined up to my blocks. Now what you're going to notice when I drag these around, they're actually going to line up on the lines and not actually be in the grid. So what that has to do with, if I double click on my block here, my brick, there's something really important here called an origin point. And what the origin point does is it determines, like, that's how it determines where the object is, because every object has to have a 1 pixel coordinate, like a 1 pixel by 1 pixel. So that's the pixel that it uses to determine the center of the object. Objects like bricks, I like to actually tuck it down in either the lower or upper corner. So what we can do is on this origin button here, you'll see the word origin. You can right click it, and then what we can do is I can quick assign it, and I'm just going to quick assign it to top left. Okay, so now I have my origin there. Now what will happen is the blocks all shift, but now you can see they line up really nice in the grid. So I can move these and I can like create a really nice clean level here by doing that. And they're all going to line up perfectly. So what I recommend you do is, while you have the grid up, go ahead and just design where you want to put all of your bricks. And then after that, you can turn the grid off, because it's going to get annoying having the grid if that's like something you don't want. So I'll just do something like this here. Okay, so I'll just stop there. Now, the other thing that we can do that's interesting is this might be a little bit boring. So I could decide, like, on certain rows, I want to change the color of these blocks. And remember, we gave them all these different frames down here with the different colors. So all I have to do is change the frame numbers on these. So initial frame, I'll make this one 1. Oh, now you can see it swapped and it like moved there. So what happened is in here, all of these still have the original origin. So anytime you change an origin, what you need to do is, I'm going to the original one where I put it here in the upper left, is I need to right click it and we have to do apply to all animations. Now they all should have the same origin, so I won't get that issue there. See, it snapped right back into place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that was good to show you guys. So I'll make this one all frame 1. The cool thing too we can do with these frames is we can actually use the frames to like change how they act. So what I could do is I can make it so different colored blocks take more hits to destroy. I don't know if I'll do that in the demo or not. Maybe we'll see what I have time for. But we'll get to where we're actually destroying blocks, and then that's something we can play around with. So there you can see I've got my blocks with different colors, and then they all could just be a 1 hit and it's just for visual, or I can do it where they actually act differently. So I'm going to click save to make sure I don't lose any data there. Now you'll notice when I run the game, like, nothing really happens yet, right? Everything we've done so far is just visual, like the game just sits here. Okay, everything animated. So I think I forgot to save it after the last demo when I did the animation speed, so I can fix that right now. So animation speed has to be 0, otherwise they're going to animate through. Okay, so that's just a good reminder. Run it again, make sure they don't animate. Yep, so now we're good, but nothing moves. So obviously I haven't told the computer anything yet. So there's no code. These are just images to a computer. So one way we can do coding is we can do something called a behavior. So we can give behaviors to things, and that gives the computer initial code that it can use. So like this ball, you highlight the ball, and then on the left, you're going to see the blue word behavior. So I'm highlighting it right here. Okay, so click behaviors, add a new behavior. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a behavior called solid. Solid means that it's treated like a solid object. So like other things that are affected by solids will not be able to go through it. I'm going to add another new behavior, and I'm going to give this a behavior called bullet. Now, anytime you're in a menu like this, you can click and find it, or there's a search bar. So if I just type in bullet, it'll just pop right up. Okay. Now, what the bullet behavior initially will do is it's just going to shoot off in a straight line like a bullet. So just by giving it that bullet behavior, I can run the game now, and it's going to just shoot off the screen like a bullet. So now that I've given it bullet behavior, if you look in the properties window here, you can see I have some new properties. So I have solid properties, and now I have bullet properties. So by adding the behavior, it gives me access to new things. Okay. We'll change the bullet properties later, but for now, we'll just leave that how it is. Okay. Or actually, there's a couple things. We'll slow down the speed. So we'll go down to 200 on the speed. And there is a checkbox. So if you guys look right here, it says bounce off solid. So if we check that, it just means that this object will bounce off solid. So anything else that is solid, it'll bounce off of. So you notice here, when I run it, I've got a wall on the side, but it just goes right through, doesn't do anything. So if I simply give my wall the solid behavior, so add a behavior, solid, okay, just by giving that wall solid behavior, now that wall, it knows what that wall is actually meant to be a wall. And so now the ball bounces off. It should bounce off the other side. We'll see if it doesn't. Yep, it does. And so you'll notice, even though I have multiple instances of this wall here, because I use control click to copy it, it's still the same object. So anything I do to one object, like behavior wise or property wise, well, not property wise, but behavior wise, it would do to all of them. If I had multiple balls and I gave each one a different speed, they would actually be different. So I could try that really quick. So I could just put another ball on here. I'm going to turn the grid off just because I don't want that right now when I'm doing my ball and stuff. So click on my game layout, and I'm going to go ahead and just turn the grid stuff off. Now I can freely drag this ball. So this ball here, I should be able to give this a unique. So let's say this one has 500 speed. So now I could have two balls. One should be slower than the other. Yep. So behaviors will apply to all of them. Same with instance variables. You don't know what those are yet, but those would apply to all of them. But actual individual properties, we can make each one different. All right, so I'm going to wipe that ball off just because I just want one ball for now. Okay, so we got those properties done. Now the paddle, we want to be able to move the paddle. So we could program it individually and just say, like, when I press a key to move, but there are a lot of good behaviors for movement. So click on the paddle. Once again, find your behaviors. Click on that. Add a new behavior. Okay. And we're going to make it solid because we also want that solid and we want the ball to bounce off of it. We're also going to give it one that's called 8 direction. Now you might be thinking, well, you might not want the paddle to move 8 direction, but we can try it out. So now just by making it solid, the ball will bounce off of it, and 8 direction is going to give me some keyboard movement. So now with the arrow keys, you can see I can move it. Now the 8 direction is letting it like move around and it like rotates and stuff. So that's just the base form of what it does. So that's not necessarily what we want. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that movement to only, we just want to be able to move left and right. So if I go down in my properties here and I find 8 direction right here, you can see right here it says directions. So what I can do is change it from 8 directions and I can just make it left and right. So that's all I should have to do. And then now when I run it, the ball won't ever interact with it, but now my paddle can only move left and right. And that's kind of the movement we want for this paddle. Okay, so we got the paddle in, we did solid on the walls. So now we have to do behaviors on the brick. So the brick, we're going to give it 2 behaviors. We're going to give it one called solid, and we're going to give it one called fade. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to save that for the next demo. So next demo, we'll start with adding those behaviors to the bricks.